Hi everyone, welcome to the 18th episode of the GenAI CIO Podcast, where Rishabh, founder and CBO of GoML, which is a niche GenAI solutions provider, and Shiva, founder and CEO for Lizer, which is a, a GenAI agents provider, we focus primarily on how do we help the world understand the latest and the greatest in the world of GenAI, but most importantly, how you can actually leverage these updates in your business, right? So, sure, we've got some really interesting news coming up, especially with Nvidia GTC closing in last week, right? This week, sorry. But before we get into the updates from Nvidia, we in our last podcast we spoke about Devin, right? Which primarily is an AI equivalent of a human programmer, right? Which is much beyond a co-pilot type of support that you get from Microsoft. But it's really crazy. I'm really appalled. Last week, Devin came in. This week we already have two competition or two rivals for Devin that have been launched already. Right? One has come in from none other than Microsoft, right? Where they've launched something called as AutoDev, right? And the idea again is how do they probably automate like what Copilot does today is it's kind of an it's a task based assistant for me that it will help me create probably let's say a presentation or probably write a code snippet in Python or probably even write an email or do some data analytics on Excel for me, right? But with AutoDev, what they're trying to do is come closer to what Devin is doing, right? Which is help you in a set of project management tasks, right? Because the biggest issue that Shiva we see with development type of tasks is that a developer in their whole journey spends only close to 20 to 30% of their time in actual development or design of the code, right? So that's what they're trying to automate over here, right? They've also introduced certain aspects of how when a code is written and when probably the developers start spending time on securing that code, making it much more deployable, right, for production and scalability. So they've spent some time, at least in the launch. They've highlighted that they also or AutoDev will also help you make that code much more secure, Dockerize it for deployment, take care of deployment, do the test case coverage. So probably to certain extent, project development and not just focusing on coding, right? But I still feel Shiva, based on the launch right that was happening, and some of these developer conversations that I was going through, looking at some of the videos that people have posted of AutoDev, you still need some understanding of coding, right? To probably like I was seeing these videos where developers were leveraging AutoDev to write Python code, but at the end of the day, they were then probably sitting and decoding the code and so on and so forth, right? So I still feel it's a long way for AutoDev to become an equivalent of what at least Cognition showed in their video. But I'll straight away moving to the next news, right? Because sure, it's very related. There's an open source equivalent of Devin that has been released, right? Which is called Devika.
Equivalent, can we call it as an equivalent or like an aspirational competitor?
I would probably say it, and see all of both of these are in. I've seen demos. We've not utilized or consumed it yet. Based on the demos, and that's why Shiva, I've used the term equivalent, right? Because if you remember Cognition's demo, right, the launch video that they had used for Devin, what they had done was they had through a prompt they have asked Devin to create a game of life game, right? Then on the left side, in a conversational format, Devin came up with a list of tasks that it's going to carry out, right, while probably create that game. On the right side, it was generating the code and compiling that code. And towards the end of the demo, if you look at it, it created that game and that probably showed that game, right?
Yeah,
Exactly something that the open source Devika has released an exact same video, right? Whereas the
I
same
agree.
prompt has been used, right, to
Okay,
to create that game. Yeah.
I agree. But I mean, from a UI standpoint, from a experience standpoint, it is almost equivalent. I don't disagree with that, right? Where I have a problem? Problem is, this is one example, but have they benchmarked it against multiple different examples like Devin did? And do we have the benchmark score to see how better Devika is compared to Devin or other platforms? So I think that's where we'll have to wait and see. I think since they've just released it now, we will
Correct.
have more developers who will try this, and the benchmarks would come out eventually for us to see. So let's
Absolutely.
wait on it. So when
So
I said equivalent, that's the point I was trying to highlight.
no,
Okay.
no, absolutely. I totally agree with you, Shiva, right? And see, a lot of this, when I started my conversation, also, I mentioned that, it's very crazy, but what I'm really appalled about is, right, the whole barrier to entry to, with GenAI, right, to such automations has become so low that we got Devin, which, till last week you were thinking it's a groundbreaking revelation, right? And this week already you have what, two more equivalents, right? So I think that whole barrier to entry probably for such autonomous agents is being lowered, right? That's what I'm happy as well as intrigued about. In this video, as you rightly mentioned, they've really not benchmarked this against a lot of programming benchmarks. But what they've really highlighted is that they want Devika to meet the SDE, which is the software development engineering benchmark, right? As what Devin does, right? But it's all claims. I agree with you. I think coming days will actually tell the truth.
Tell us more. Yeah. Fantastic. Uh, Next up, we have news from Nvidia. They have their annual developer conference. So Jensen Huang released the new AI chips. Obviously, why not? He is, and the company is raking in money like crazy. They've launched the new Blackwell series of chips, which is a trillion parameter, which can handle up to trillion parameter AI models pretty easily, which is GPT-4, by the way. So GPT-4, as per rumors, it was about 1.3 trillion parameters. So ideally, that's what that's what, sorry, Blackwell could do already. And on another related news, I mean, so Jensen Huang also said that they have invested about $10 billion so far. They've spent, not invested, spent so far $10 billion to build this particular chip. You'll have to take with a pinch of salt. Obviously, 10 billion is, I mean, you'll have to show to the world why this chip is important. So using the marketing language, but definitely, investment has gone, and we won't know the efficiency of these chips until we kind of all of us start trying it out. In the last episode, we did try about the alternate ways to handle the compute aspect, right? So one is by companies like Xtropic, they are building this analog based chip which can work even more efficiently. And then on the other hand, we also spoke about one bit LLMs in the previous episode, where you need from moving away from the 16-bit float model to a 1-bit, 1.58-bit LLM, so that even LLMs would need less compute power.
Yes.
So I think innovation is happening on both sides. But as of now, the tried and tested model is what Nvidia has, which is those GPU chips. Google has TPU chips. So all the big AI providers are placing orders like crazy already. Apparently, that's news. There are a lot of memes going around. So yes, so that's the launch that's a big highlight from this week's launch of Nvidia.
No, absolutely, and just so for our listeners to give some kind of comparison, like the H100 GPUs, which was the Hopper GPU, which was the predecessor for Blackwell, required almost close to 8,000 GPUs and 90 days to train the GPT 1.58 trill model, right? At least Nvidia's claim is that with the Blackwell GPUs, they will be, or the same equivalent model could be trained with one fourth the GPUs, which is probably almost equivalent to 2,000 GPUs, right? And with 25% of power required, right? So this is the biggest concern that probably OpenAI had, right? Or probably most of the folks had with OpenAI, right? That it was consuming a lot of power, a lot of GPUs for training its models and so on and so forth. So, I mean, definitely a big announcement by Nvidia this week.
And the and the
So,
price also.
yeah.
The price also, if you see, Blackwell is super efficient, super powerful, but almost in the same ballpark range. H100s today are somewhere between $22,000 all the way up to $40,000, and Blackwell is between $20,000 to $30,000. So
Yep.
better price, fantastic performance, and like you said, higher efficiency as well. So yeah, let's see what I mean. Future is all about compute so far as AI is concerned, unless someone cracks the whole algorithm to train a transformer model.
As I think Shiva, in one of my our conversations that I was highlighting, the world is building planes, but it's only Nvidia that's focusing on building the runway, right? So, just as a
Yeah,
side, right?
yeah. So followed by that, we also have, they also released the hardware and software platform for human-like robots. Uh, I think in the next episode we should cover Figure. We haven't covered the last. Did we cover Figure already? No, I don't think so. OpenAI Figure? No. We'll,
We did touch base on this when Musk sued OpenAI right when it was when OpenAI invested into Figure, but yeah, we haven't. I think we should touch base on that. Sure.
we'll try that. Yeah, we'll cover that in the next episode. So yeah, there is this huge influx of or focus towards robotics already. So OpenAI launched Figure, OpenAI and Figure launched together a robot. We have Nvidia now launching the platform for both hardware and software platform to build human-like robots. They also had um, some demos on stage. They've called it as Project Groot actually. So it can converse with humans. It can do activities like humans. So all these days we've seen Boston Dynamics robots. They were like all robot-like because they were not conversing. It was like you were still operating a machine or a pet dog. But with the language capabilities, we are pretty close to the movies that we used to see, the humanoid robot movies anyway that we used to see. So yeah, Nvidia is also pushing down the robots aspect as well.
I still get the chills when at the stadium at the SAP Center in San Jose when he's making that announcement, right? Sure. And by the way, a lot of people might not know this. The robots that are actually walking on the stage, right, with Saloon, are designed by Disney. They're just running on the Groot platform from Nvidia. So it's not the hardware that
Wow.
Nvidia has given. That was actually done by Disney, and that is why the name Groot. Sure, it's around. It's from my favorite characters in the Guardians of the
Oh,
Galaxy.
okay.
But yeah, I mean, it just gave you the chills, right? If you see that video, these two
Yeah.
small humanoid robots, and the moment you see that, you go back to C-3PO and Star Wars, right? But I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it can do much more than that. They walk in, and these larger, and in center you have Jensen Huang, and then you've got these larger robots who are standing, and they're like kind of welcoming these smaller robots as they continue to walk, right? I mean, the launch is really good. Obviously, we'll have to see how this works out, but again, a brilliant news from Nvidia, at least the platform side of things, right?
It's a more, it was, I mean, they made really good production is what you're also saying, that it was
Yeah,
not
exactly.
a dull. Got it.
It's a
Got it.
production value as well. Like what we saw with the launch of Sora as well. Right? It's production value also that matters, right?
Production
So
value of this.
since
Yeah.
obviously Disney was involved in this, I'm pretty sure that they would not compromise, right? So,
Makes sense.
all right.
Yeah. What
From
else we
that,
have?
so from Nvidia to Google, right? So while very short update, Shiva over here, but a very brilliant update, which seems to be explored. So what Google has done is they've actually released a new technique for retraining your LLMs, right? Which they've referred to as parameter
Okay.
efficient reinforced learning, right? Or PERL. Now, generally,
Ho-
obviously, most of us might be aware that how RLHF works, right? That RLHF is where you get human feedback real time, and then you probably push that into the models, and then you probably adjust the complete weights, etc., from the model's perspective, right? So that the model can learn on top of it, right? But it's a very
And then we had, and then we had AI, RLAIF also, which is reinforced learning AI feedback as well. Okay.
But the biggest challenge that is with these, and that's why probably a lot of these systems don't have RLHF implemented because it's a costly. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're retraining the model real time, right? Probably multiple
Yeah.
times, right? Training it once itself is very expensive, right? So what they've actually done over here is they've used a technique called LoRa, right, which is low ranking adaptation. For our listeners, it's a way of fine tuning your models with a limited set of parameters. It's a limited fine tuning technique that is used in a lot of places, right? They've used LoRa to focus only on the set of parameters that are getting changed, right, as part of
Okay.
this feedback mechanism, and adjust only those adapters and parameters in the model, right, to fine tune adjust only those adapters and parameters to update your model instead of retraining the whole
Okay.
model aspect, right? So the advantage that you actually get obviously is, and they've tested it out across a couple of parameters, right? Across a couple of data sets and so on and so forth, that they found efficiency. But obviously, the advantage now that you have is you can do this with a limited set of compute power because you're not retraining the whole model, but you're just adjusting the parameters which need to be adjusted based on the human feedback, right?
But is this an open source one? Have they released for everyone to see, or is this like closed
Yeah,
source?
yeah,
Or are they
this
trying to?
they've launched this as a. I mean, I was just going through the paper, Shiva. They've launched this as a
Oh,
complete.
is the paper that they've launched? Is the okay? It's a paper
It's
that
a
they've launched.
technique. It's a technique that they've actually completely explained and tested out. They've launched this, like I think the coffee, a tastemaker coffee data set that they were trying this across. It worked out brilliantly in that in the paper, right? So yeah, so
Got
it's a good update. Again, see some of these things, Shiva. I feel is that Google, especially in this space, does give certain set of updates. But then again, how consumable these become is something that we'll have to see down the lane. Definitely helps, makes RLHF more adaptable, but will it
Yeah.
prove beneficial is something when it starts getting a competency.
Okay. Cool. I mean, this let's try it. Let's give it a try. We are doing a lot of RLHF anyway at Lizer and at GoML as well. Let's give it a try and see how this works.
It's a brilliant update for people who are planning to build their in-house or probably even through a vendor, right, applications, right? Because again, one thing that obviously GenAI brings in is real-time feedback and real-time learning, right? So if we can make that more efficient, which probably Pearl allows us to do definitely.
Yeah, makes sense. So next up, the last one for the day is this is probably the news about Inflection AI. This is probably the rug pull equivalent of what used to happen in the crypto days. That's how at least people in the community are speaking. So here is what happened. 1 year back, there were three companies in the Bay Area which raised over a lot of money at multiple billion-dollar valuation. One was OpenAI, another one was Anthropic, the third one was Inflection AI. The Inflection, then we had Cohere, we had multiple other companies, Mistral, and all of them making news anyway. Inflection AI was supposed to be a competitor. The founding team they were ex-Google DeepMind guys, Mustafa Suleiman and Karen. Uh, and a lot of money was poured in because I think a whole of DeepMind team kind of split across, and each of them eventually have a billion-dollar valuation company anyway. Long story short, they were trying to compete with GPT. They could not. People even claimed that they are just a wrapper on top of GPT-4, their actual front-end app, because someone even proved with examples that both GPT-4 and Inflection AI were giving exact same response for a query, like even including word by word response. So, and we had the news coming in this week that the Inflection AI CEO and the founding team and also key employees, they all are joining Microsoft to lead Microsoft's consumer AI team. Mustafa is now the CEO of Microsoft Consumer AI, where they are planning to build something similar to ChatGPT, Bing, Copilot, Perplexity. They're planning to take on all these consumer apps which are having some really good traction. On a side note, Perplexity performance is going down. I don't know if both OpenAI and Google are throttling what is happening from a Perplexity search. Possible, very much possible. Because see, Perplexity again, as a company, is just a thin layer on top of Google and not a thin layer. They're a layer on top of Google and ChatGPT anyway. But that's where Microsoft is trying to do, probably build everything so that they have all of they are able to take on these consumer side of things as well. So yeah, that's why people say it's a rug pull, because uh, all this valuation, massive valuation means nothing. Inflection AI is hiring a new CEO. I think they have a new CEO actually, Sean White, and they're planning to uh, continue to go with their mission. I don't know what it is now anymore. Yeah, this is making a lot of waves. There are also talks in the industry that will this probably mark the death, or I would say slowdown of AI investment, because this is the first big news that an AI, because everything is getting commoditized. So the first big news that, okay, you know what, are things getting commoditized, etc.
Yeah.
So, yep, that's news on Inflection AI.
Brilliant, brilliant, Shiva. I mean, see, this is where right, this whole space is so unpredictable right now, and it will be. Like as we've discussed in the past, we are at the stage of GenAI. It's actually no one honestly understands it end to end. Every week we bring in newer updates, right? I mean, it's like Microsoft investing into GPT, and then probably went and investing into Mistral as well. Right, Google and Apple coming together. Apple, bringing in open source models and whatnot, right? On a side note, and I was, after this news came in, I spent a lot of time reading about Mustafa Sulaiman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our listeners might not know this, but Sulaiman was actually asked to leave DeepMind, right, in 2019.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was, and I was reading this Bloomberg. I just got this, while obviously nothing very controversial, Shiva, but I was just, stating the facts. I was going to this Bloomberg report that actually mentioned. So he was actually asked to go on leave, right, because of some issues. No, not really why, right? But then there's a later Bloomberg report that actually mentions he was asked to leave because he bullied staff, right, at DeepMind. Or
What
by
happened?
that,
He would what?
sorry?
Why was he asked to leave?
Because he was bullied. Bloomberg report states because he bullied staff. Right? He was
Bullied. Okay,
rude to
bullied
them
staff.
and so on and so forth. There. So more behavioral issues, but I mean nothing very controversial. These are the facts that I was able to read through. So let's see how this works out, Shiva. Obviously, one announcement to this, or multiple announcements that Microsoft has lately made. They want to reduce their dependence on GPT, right? They want to be a little more agnostic, provider from when it comes to GenAI. So this, I think, contributes to that again.
Okay, cool. So that brings an end to today's episode. We'll come back with more episode. We also had CIO speak. We spoke to Nate Melby, who's the CIO of Dairyland Cooperative, which is a very large power generation company in the US. And it was exciting and more informative to see how he's adopted Gen AI in his organization. It's kind of very, I think it would inspire a lot of other CIOs also to kind of kickstart the whole Gen AI adoption. And I think the clue was start from simpler use cases, right? Don't try and attack a very complex use case. Start with chatbots, knowledge search engine, RAG engines, etc. So please watch that episode if you haven't watched. It's available in our YouTube channel. And Rishabh and I signing off. We will catch up with you with more news in next week's episode. Until then, take care. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.